The Age of Shadows and Belief. In the dim candlelit chambers of medieval Europe, fear was not just a fleeting emotion. It was woven into the very fabric of life. Disease, famine, and war were daily realities, but the terrors that lurked in the imagination were just as potent. The medieval mind did not separate reality from myth as we do today. Monsters were not seen as legends. They were warnings, punishments, or signs from the divine. To understand the world, people turned to the supernatural, and in doing so, they built a terrifying menagerie of mythical beasts, demon spawn, and cursed creatures. Monstrous mirrors of morality. Medieval monsters were not merely grotesque, they were symbolic. Every creature, from the half-man, half-horse centaur to the fire-breathing dragon, represented something more profound: sin, heresy, or foreignness. To the medieval mind, the monster reflected society's fears and flaws. A woman who lived alone and defied social norms might be branded a witch. A child born with deformities could be seen as a monster, a sign of divine displeasure. Monstrosity wasn't just about appearance, it was a judgment. The Church and the demonization of the unknown. At the heart of medieval Europe stood the Church, a powerful institution that offered salvation but also fear. The Church painted the devil not only as a fallen angel, but as a shapeshifter who walked the earth in monstrous forms. Demons were believed to tempt men into sin, possess women, and infiltrate dreams. The bestiaries, illuminated books of animals both real and imagined, often depicted creatures like basilisks, manticores, and griffins as real threats, existing alongside lions and wolves. The line between nature and the unnatural blurred, all under the watchful eye of God. Beyond the edge of the map. Here be dragons. These infamous words found on medieval maps weren't simply decorative, they were deeply believed. To travel beyond the known world was to invite encounters with monsters. Explorers wrote of giant serpents in the east, headless men with faces in their chests, and cannibalistic tribes. These tales were fed by ignorance and fueled by religious dogma. Anything foreign, different, or unexplained was considered monstrous. The further one ventured from the Christian world, the closer they got to the devil's playground. Women as monsters. One of the darkest aspects of medieval monster lore was the fear of women. The myth of the succubus, demonic women who seduced men in their sleep, was born from this paranoia. Women who were assertive, sexually independent, or even just unfortunate became scapegoats in a patriarchal society. They were accused of witchcraft, burned, drowned, or exiled. The monstrous feminine wasn't just a myth, it was a social weapon. Lilith, Medusa, and sirens all played into a larger narrative. Women's power, especially sexual power, was dangerous and had to be suppressed. The monstrous races. Medieval texts like the Travels of Sir John Manville told of monstrous races: dog-headed men, people with no heads and eyes in their chests, and tribes with only one giant foot used as a sunshade. These stories were not seen as fiction but as natural variations of humanity, existing far beyond Christian lands. The deeper message was clear. Those outside Christendom were less than human, physically monstrous, and spiritually lost. The othering of foreign cultures through monsters justified both religious crusades and colon. Monsters in the margins. Even within the pages of sacred texts and scholarly tomes, monsters crept in. Illuminated manuscripts from the Middle Ages often featured grotesque hybrid beasts in their margins: snail-riding knights, fish-bodied monks, or rabbits wielding swords. Some believe these were forms of satire or hidden rebellion by monks. Others suggest they symbolized the constant presence of chaos beneath the surface of order. These strange doodles were not accidents. They were the subconscious fears of an entire society seeping into the most sacred of places. Real monsters, plague, and panic. When the Black Death swept across Europe in the 14th century, it killed nearly half the population. People could not explain the disease scientifically, so they looked to the supernatural. Jews were accused of poisoning wells. Cats were killed en masse, thought to be witches' familiars. ironically worsening the plague by allowing rat populations to thrive. Death itself was personified as a monstrous force, the pale rider, the dance macabre, the skeletal reaper. In the absence of medicine, monsters filled the vacuum of understanding. The birth of the monster hunter. From these fears emerged figures who claimed to fight monsters: exorcists, inquisitors, and witch hunters. These were not fictional characters, but real, often state-sanctioned agents of religious terror. They interrogated, tortured, and executed those believed to be possessed, cursed, or monstrous. Witch hunts spread through Europe, and tens of thousands, mostly women, were killed. The line between hero and monster blurred as those claiming to fight darkness became monstrous themselves. Legacy of the medieval monster. Today, we relegate monsters to fantasy and horror, but their medieval ancestors still haunt us. The way society others people who are different, the fear of what lies beyond, the demonization of sexuality and independence, all have deep roots in medieval monstrosity. The monsters of the Middle Ages were not real in body, but they were very real in mind, shaping laws, beliefs, and behaviors. Understanding how medieval society viewed monsters is not just about the past. It's a mirror to the present, asking us what we still fear and why. This journey into the medieval world of monsters is more than a tale of superstition. It's a window into the psychology of an age gripped by ignorance, faith, and fear. And perhaps, deep down, we're still telling the same stories, just with different names.